Good morning, everybody. Bore da, and welcome to today's meeting of Powys County Council's Cabinet. Present are the whole Cabinet. We're all present, correct, and several senior officers and supporting officers to support us with today's agenda, which is relatively brief, and we will make a start with apologies, which I doubt we have any because I think we're all present.
No apologies.
So
Sorry,
Nigel Braden, leader.
Say again.
Nigel Braden apologises.
We're missing one senior officer, but all members are present, so that's fine. Thank you very much for that. We move to the minutes, which are on page 3. We'll start on page 3. And the minutes of the meeting held by Zoom on Tuesday, the 8th of November, 2022. Are there, I am required to sign these as a correct record of what took place. Are there any issues of accuracy that members would like to raise at this stage?
None, Chair. I propose them.
Thank you. Could I have a seconder for that, please? Seconded by Councillor Matthew Dorrance. Thank you very much indeed. So could you please indicate that you're happy for me to sign those as a correct record? Show of hands is fine. Thank you very much indeed. And so that's that item dealt with. We move on to the next item on the agenda, item 3. Are there any declarations of interest members need to make? And if anything arises during the meeting, please declare if you fail to do so now. I hear none. Thank you very much. Item 4 is correspondence. I have none. So none received. So we can move to the substantive part of the agenda. Item 5, which is council tax base, which begins on page 7. And this item is to be presented by Councillor David Thomas. Please, Cabinet Member for Finance and Transformation. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Leader. This report is for decision and it's the proposed council tax base for 23-24. Just some background into the report. The setting of the council tax base is an annual statutory requirement and is an integral part of the setting of the council tax level at Band D in accordance with a specified formulae reflecting its budget requirements for the relevant financial year. The council tax base is the adjusted number of chargeable dwellings in the council's area belonging to each valuation band modified to take account of several assumptions and factors, including the proportion applying to dwellings in each council tax band, together with a number of discounts, exemptions, disablement reductions and premiums. An estimate for losses on collection is also made. The council has determined to increase the 50% premium on long-term empty properties to 100% and to increase the 50% premium on periodically occupied dwellings to 75%. The increase in the premiums will be effective from the 1st of April 2023. The council tax base calculation includes a projection of those properties totaling 778 Band D equivalent properties expected to be subject to the council tax premium during 23-24, having regard to the new premium rates. The council tax base calculation for 23-24 is based on the list prepared by the Valuation Office Agency as at 31st of October for the financial year. The gross council tax base calculation is applied to Welsh Government and is used as part of the distribution of revenue support grant in the annual provisional and final local government revenue settlements. The council is not only required to calculate the council tax base for the county council as a whole, but also make separate calculations for areas that have their own town or community council. The net council tax base is used by the Police and the Crime Commissioner and town community councils to set their council tax precepts for 23-24, which will include in the annual demands sent to every council taxpayer in March 2023. Appendix 1 of the report sets out the calculation of the 23-24 council tax base. The breakdown of the council tax base for each community is set out in paragraph 4.2 in the report. It's proposed that this report on the calculation of the council tax base for the whole and parts of its area for the year 23-24 be approved. The calculation is contained within Appendix 1 of the report. That pursuant to the report and in accordance with the local authorities calculation of council tax base Wales Amendment Regulations 2016, the amount calculated by Powys County Council as its council tax base for the whole of its area for the year 23-24 shall be 64,256.51, and for the parts of the area listed below, and that's below 4.2 in the report, for the year 23-24. And that concludes the report, Leader. I can put the recommendations later.
Thank you very much indeed. Very clear. Jane, Section 151 Officer, is there anything you would like to add to the portfolio holder's presentation?
Only a little, please, Chair, if I may, just
By
to
all
say
means.
that obviously the growth in the council tax base will generate extra revenue. However, as much of that is attached to the premiums, we are not considering that in its full extent, because obviously the aim of the premiums is to deliver a change in terms of the number of long-term empties. So we can't rely on that funding. So just to emphasise that point, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that. Are there any members wishing to comment? No discussion required. Okay, it was all very clear. The recommendation, David, if you'd like to just put the recommendation to the meeting, that'd be great.
Yes, Leader. That the calculation of the council tax base for the whole of its area for the year 23-24 of 64,256.51 be approved, and that the calculation of the council tax base for each town and community council contained with 4.2 be approved to meet the legal requirement of the council to set a council tax base for 23-24.
Thank you very much. I need a formal vote on this, of course. Very important decision. So will those in favour please indicate?
Chair, can we have a seconder first, please?
Oh, Brian, thank you very much,
I'm happy
Clive.
to second. Happy to second that.
My apologies. Yes, of course we do. So we'll take the vote again, please. Please indicate if you support. Thank you very much. That's unanimous. So that decision is taken. Thank you very much indeed. To the next item on the agenda, which is the school funding formula review, the extension to deadline for final agreement, starting on page 19 of our agenda pack, to be presented by Councillor Pete Roberts. Oh, well, yes, Councillor Pete Roberts and County Councillor David Thomas. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leader. This is a very simple piece of work for us. The Schools Budget Forum is the organisation that we operate with in order to provide advice involving the school community in terms of changes to the funding formula that we use for schools. It's required to meet every year and deliver a report to us in December, which places quite a lot of work on the first half of the autumn term. Unfortunately, this year, due to the sad death of Her Majesty the Queen, the September meeting of the forum fell within the PERDA period in the run-up to the funeral, and as a result was postponed. So the forum lost a month's time of its time in arranging the first date of the meeting. Staff were then diverted quite significantly onto providing support in other areas, particularly the development of the budget in relation to the quite significant challenging financial position. So the work of the forum, in order to meet its deadline, would essentially mean that there will be no time for any meaningful consultation with the schools community. So what we're seeking today is a delay of 1 month in terms of the date that the forum are required to complete their consultation and report back to Cabinet. And that is the basis of the recommendation that I'll put in a minute.
Good. Thank you very much. David, did you, as finance portfolio holder, have anything to add?
No, I'm perfectly happy with what the portfolio for education has presented. Thank you, Leader.
Good. Director of Education, do you wish to add anything further?
Nothing further from me, thank you, Leader.
Okay, it's all very clear. Reasoning perfectly logical. So, are there any other comments from members that members would wish to make? I see no hands. So, in which case, Councillor Peake, would you please put the recommendation to the meeting?
The recommendation is it's recommended that any proposed changes to the school's funding formula to be implemented within the 23-24 financial year will be consulted upon and agreed by Cabinet before the end of January 2023.
And do I have a second for that, please? Councillor Richard Church seconded. Thank you. And a show of hands, please, for those in favour of the recommendation. Good. Decision taken. Thank you very much. Unanimously agreed. We now move to item 7 on the agenda, which is to note, we simply have to note the delegated decisions taken since the last meeting, covered on pages 23 and 24. Do members have any comment to make about those, please? Nothing at all. Okay. Clive, can you invite, do we need to vote on noting these or just note it?
Yes, noted, Leader. Thank you very much.
Yeah, there's a noted. Thank you very much indeed. Item 8 is the forward work programme for Cabinet, pages 25 and 26. Again, you know, this is an indication of our work. Of course, it can be altered as we go along, but that's just an indication. Members have any comment? No, nothing. Okay, again, we're asked to note that, which we have duly done. Item 9 is title exempt items, but as item 10 has been withdrawn from the agenda, we don't need to make that resolution and we don't need to consider item 10, which brings us very briefly and swiftly to the end of the meeting. So members, thank you one and all. I have nothing further to add as chair. I have no other business, so I formally close the meeting at 10:14. Thank you very much indeed.